I've been working in the online course industry for years. First, I worked full-time for Ramit Sethi and then Teachable, and today I'm the founder of Wit Wire, where I help creators turn their skills and passions into profitable online businesses. And I am trying something new I've never done before and bringing you behind the scenes to share how I earned my first $1,000, $10,000, and $100,000 as a course creator, including how long it took me to hit each milestone and the main strategies that got me there. To give a little bit of a backstory, I purchased the domain witandwire.com in July of 2019, and I officially published my website in September. And at that time, I was just working on putting out weekly blog posts to try to build up some domain authority for my site. And I was using Pinterest and SEO strategies to start to build some organic traffic and to build up my email list. I was working full-time for Teachable at the time. So earning money wasn't something I felt pressured to do right away. I felt very fortunate. I was really just trying to see what kind of momentum I could build. And I did do one thing that I would recommend as a quick tip. I put a work with me page on my website just in case somebody wanted to work with me and to pay me money. And so I had this very informal page with a couple of different packages, like a podcast launch package or a growth package, and I included a contact form. And one person actually did reach out to me and paid me $993 for a podcast launch package. And that never would have been possible if I hadn't put myself out there. So I would recommend making it known if you are available for hire, because you never know who might want to reach out and pay you for your expertise. Now, even though I did earn money in November of 2019, I'm actually going to start our timeline in February of 2020 as we talk about milestone 1, which is how I earned my first $1,000. So February of 2020 is when I put my very first online course available for sale through Wit Wire's website. And it was a course called 5-Star Podcast Launch, and I priced it at $297 for the self-paced program, or 3 payments of $120. At that time, I had 476 people on my email list. And I was so nervous putting the course out there, but also really excited. I had 2 people buy the course in February, and within the first 30 days, I had just earned my first $1,000 because 6 students purchased the program. At this moment, I think it's important to take a quick little sidebar to talk about payment plans, because even though a lot of students chose the 3-month payment plan of $120, I don't count that money until it hits my bank account. I'm not an accountant, but I believe this is called accounts receivable versus accounts payable. But please don't quote me on that. So technically, it didn't take me more than 4 students to earn $1,000 if I were to count the money they would eventually pay me. But because I'm only counting money that is actually mine, that's actually been paid, it took me just under 30 days and 6 students to hit $1,000. So let's get into the sales strategies I was using at the time. So when I launched the course in February of 2020, I actually had an evergreen webinar funnel as my very first approach. People could sign up for the automated webinar, they could watch it on demand, and they were given a pitch afterwards. And I kept that up for a few weeks, and I was actually running Facebook and Instagram ads into that funnel. So my email list grew pretty substantially between those 476 people in February to just over 3,000 subscribers by the end of March. And it wasn't just paid ads, because the other major thing that happened to my business in March of 2020 was that a few of my posts went viral on Pinterest. Maybe it was because of the pandemic. That seems like it could be a logical guess, but my email list really skyrocketed in February and March of 2020. And so even though I had planned to continue running the automated webinar, I felt like it might make sense and could be timely to offer a bit of a flash sale at the end of March. I hit $3,000 in course sales by the end of March because the flash sale was pretty successful. And the flash sale just involved me selling my original course bundled with a couple other smaller complementary podcasting courses, and I called it New Podcaster Essentials. And honestly, part of the reason I did that is because a lot of course creation experts talk about the power of bonuses, and I wanted to see if I could sell better by having one clear course that had one clear price versus a bundle of courses or a main course that had bonuses to see if they were sold at the exact same price. Was there a single strategy that worked better? I think it was too small of a sample size to really say for sure, but the bundle was definitely a success. After the flash sale, the biggest thing that took me to milestone number 2, which was hitting $10,000, was deciding to run a live cohort of the program. So at this point in time, I had earned my $3,000. I felt like something was missing from the course experience. I really wanted to work with people one-on-one. I had seen a lot of success from the live cohort model for courses. And honestly, we had all just gone into lockdown. And I thought that this could be a good time to do a live cohort of a podcast launch experience. At the end of April, I ran 2 live webinars called Create and Launch Your Podcast in 60 Days or Less. And it was the same webinar that I had been doing in an automated version, but now I was doing it live. And at the end of those 2 webinars, I told people I was going to run a live cohort, and I was calling it the Podcast Launch Accelerator, and that it would start on May 4th, and that also on May 4th, the course would no longer be available for sale. So I sold 20 spots into that program. And by May 4th, I had earned $10,302 in online course sales in total. So between February 20th and May 4th, in 2.5 months, I passed the $10,000 milestone. Something important I really want to share, though, is that I invested in Facebook and Instagram ads because I believed that I had the marketing experience to sell ads and convert enough people into my program to offset those costs. I spent about $2,800 on ads between January and the start of May. So overall, I was still super excited to have earned just over $7,000 in profit. But I do want to share these numbers with you just so that you know that online business owners are out there sharing their revenue numbers online, and that's all well and good. But it is important as a business owner to track not only your revenue, but also your operating expenses, your ad spend, and your bottom line. And I think it is absolutely a great choice for a lot of business owners to spend on advertising as long as you know that you are earning more than you're spending. But we'll save those strategies for another day. And if you are interested in learning more about ads for your business, maybe leave me a comment below this video about any specific questions you might have. To briefly recap, it took me 1 month to earn $1,000 and 2.5 months to earn $10,000. So how long did it take me to earn $100,000 as a course creator? Obviously, this took a bit longer. And as of May 4th, 2020, I actually no longer had any courses available for sale on my website because that was a big part of my overall business strategy, was that for the sake of the launch for the live cohort, it did make sense to fully close the doors because I didn't want people to join in late since we were going through it together, me and the 20 students. And also I wanted to focus my energy on delivering a really great experience for those early students with the hopes that I would get some really great testimonials and case studies when I reopened the program in the fall. With that in mind, we will jump ahead to the fall of 2020 to talk about the 3 core strategies that I think had the biggest impact on me eventually hitting that $100,000 milestone. So the first one was in August of 2020. I ran a new webinar. And this was an interesting little moment in my business because the previous webinar, Create and Launch Your Podcast in 60 Days or Less, was pretty obviously targeted towards the right attendee. But in August, I wanted to get a little spicier, I guess. So I did this webinar called A New Era of Podcasting, and I talked about a lot of the changes in the industry and the mistakes that I saw a lot of new hosts making. The unexpected outcome of that webinar is that my registration rate was actually really high, but it included a lot of hosts who had already launched their podcasts. And those people were not a good fit for the Podcast Launch Accelerator. But I decided to do an impromptu course bundle for them because I saw an opportunity and I wanted to just jump on it. I did have a vested interest in learning more about what current hosts needed in order to continue scaling their shows. So what I did a day or 2 before the live webinar is I made a very basic sales page where I stripped the bonuses from my main offer. And I said, if you already have a podcast, you can purchase just these bonus courses. And you can also join me live every other week for the next few months with a group of fellow hosts to learn more about how all of you are building your podcasts. And much to my surprise, 20 people ended up purchasing that $200 bonus pack. So that was money I never would have earned if I had just said, oh, you know what, these people aren't really candidates for my course. I don't know if that would always be the right strategy, but I think in that moment for my business, and especially because I really did want to talk to more active hosts, it was the right fit, and I'm glad I made that impulsive choice. At the same time, I obviously had my main launch to worry about. So I was selling the Podcast Launch Accelerator, and there was a limited time offer that if you joined the program, you could also unlock some extra bonus courses, the ones I was just talking about. And by the end of August, I had sold $18,312 of courses in the month of August alone. And then in September, I did $15,228. 2 quick things about those numbers, though, is that number one, they were including previous purchases. So even some of the May students were still on payment plans. That is one of the interesting and I think positive things about a payment plan approach is that it's more accessible for students to join and you do get a little bit of predictability with your cash flow. The second thing that happened is I had some people join in August and they were already making their second payment in September. So those two numbers, the 18,000 in August, the 15,000 in September, I just want to reiterate that those are starting to include recurring payment plans. They're not just new students joining the programs for the first time. After that live event, I moved into a series of weekly live webinars, which I ran from September through November. I did the same live webinar every single Wednesday. And although it sounds like it might be exhausting and it was a little bit tiring, I actually sincerely love teaching live webinars. And I did automate a lot of the process because the reminder emails leading up to the event were the same. And then the sales pitch after the webinar was also the same. I will also just add that I am not a believer personally in having a course available for sale if it appears to be not for sale on your website. At this moment, you could just buy the accelerator at any time. It was available on witandwire.com very publicly. But if you did register for the webinar, then you were given the opportunity to get a slightly discounted rate and to get some bonus courses. For me, that was the ethical way I could balance making the program sincerely urgent to join and to reward registrants without it feeling like I was pulling the wool over people's eyes or that the program wasn't really available. I thought about continuing into December of 2020, and if I had done that, I would have hit my first $100,000 within my first calendar year of business. A big reason why I started Wit Wire in the first place was to spend more time with my family and to have some freedom outside of work, and I felt like continuing to do live weekly webinars when I was home with family just didn't make sense. The other major thing I had going on at this time was the fact that I was still working full-time for Teachable, and I would say that December of 2020, but more so January of 2021 may have just been the busiest professional month I've ever had in my entire career because I was working my full-time job. And at this point, honestly, I was running a full-time business. I was working before work and after work and on weekends for Wit and Wire. And then I was working pretty regular business hours for Teachable. And I was at a breaking point. Back to January of 2021. This is a month where I decided to try something new in my business yet again. And so I think the third crucial strategy that helped me hit $100,000 was running a free challenge. It was interesting that I chose to do this because I had a webinar that was proven, arguably two webinars that were proven and working well, but everybody on the internet was raving about free 5-day challenges. And I do sincerely like to try new things for my business because you never know until you try it yourself. So I ran this free 5-day challenge called Ready to Record. And it was interesting because it honestly did not sell as well as I thought it would. But the engagement rate of this challenge was off the charts. The people who were participating in it absolutely loved it. So although maybe it didn't match my personal sales goal, I still kind of consider it a success. It just didn't convert as well as my webinars in the past. And I think there are a lot of possible factors, and that is certainly a strategy conversation for another day. For our video, it did help push me past the $100,000 mark because I sold just over $7,000 in new course sales that month. And so overall, it took me between February of 2020 and January of 2021, so 11 months, to earn $100,000 as an online course creator. But there is one more important note. Even though I never promoted them, I did have one-on-one services available on my site this entire time. And of that first $100,000, $16,000 actually came from one-on-one work. And these were people who maybe heard the one or two mentions on my podcast, or maybe the one email where I talked about it. But overall, these were people who came in because they saw my free webinar, they learned about my course, they heard me on a podcast, and somehow they found my website, found my Work With Me page, and then reached out to inquire about my services. Circling back to the beginning of this video, I can't stress how helpful I think it is to have a Work With Me page just because you never know who might want to hire you. So I think this is just proof that people will reach out if they know you're available and if they like what they see of your business. To break down how I earned my first $101,000 in my first 11 months of business, I earned just over $80,000 in online course sales, $16,000 in services, and $6,500 in affiliate earnings. So that 80-20 rule absolutely does apply. And I think this also just shows the power of having multiple revenue streams. Because although I was focused focused on selling online courses, the fact that I had one-on-one services available and barely put any energy into those, and the fact that from the moment I started blogging in 2019, I was including affiliate links in all of my articles and I was promoting things like course bundles or summits all along the way, it really does add up. And it makes a difference. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up so that I know to create more content like this in the future. And make sure you subscribe to Wit Wire before you go so you don't miss any of our upcoming online course strategies or online business tips. I'm Melissa, and whatever you are working on, I cannot wait to see what you will create. I'll see you soon.